God, I love it. I really do have it like a real bad, like, Gen X, freaking 80s sitcom intro or something. It's just this goofy, like, just candid, and almost, it's like a canned reaction. So I start these videos. Eventually, I'll outgrow it and come up with something that is a little bit more consistent and natural. But in the meantime, I'll keep doing whatever until I feel it out and find what works best. So, anyway, I'm your host, Chad over Broshears, or Sir Chad over Broshears to some. There's a joke behind that, maybe, kind of, not so much. Inside thing. Anyway, yeah, just create a mystery, man. Enjoy, create engagement. This is the maturity project. Yeah, and I think that's it becomes apparent to me often that we get so heavy and significant about life that we make everything so incredibly important. But what that can do, what it can do is it can overweight everything to the point that either you lose seriousness, or the people that you're enrolling in whatever that thing is, it's heavy and significant, starts to lose its own significance as well. And it more of an unconscious way. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily conscious, although I have heard people use the language of that, where they're like, oh yeah, no, they do that all the time. It's not a big deal. Or, oh, let me guess, there's this cataclysm and this horrible thing coming, and Chicken Little and all the rest of those different things that we use to teach around this to get people to understand it. But we don't necessarily get the experience of it, or what's referred to as experientially. We don't understand it, which I think is really common. Anyway, so I'm not making any kind of statements about anything that's current in my life necessarily, but I am making this about life in general. When we're over heavy and significant, we have a habit of sucking the fun out of life, and that's one of the reasons why, if you ever notice when you talk about people that are just they're fun-loving, or they love life or whatever, is that they're carefree, which is the exact opposite side of the coin from significant. There's reasons and values, and the reason to doing a lot of this stuff is, if you need change or you need something specific, it's, important enough to you that you change it from carefree, which would mean not necessarily that important to me, or at least there's not that much significance attached to it. So if it's in my life, great. If it's not in my life, that's fine too. That would be the carefree side of things. Or the heavy and significant side of things is, I can't do without this. This is it. I have to have. And life's important to have a balance, but it oscillates. And this idea where you should be happy is the only way to validate life is a horrible philosophy. It's incredibly destructive. It is the equivalent of telling people that sugar is a highly nutritious meal, and that you should have sugar as often as you can. And if you're not eating sugar, then something's wrong, and you won't be healthy. You have to be careful with hooked on happy. Hooked on happy is a dangerous thing because it creates a delusional pattern of the way to live life that creates habits and things that disconnect from the reality of life, which comes with all shades of emotion. It's not just the happy or the joyous, which are like emotions, like each other. Therefore, people like to culminate around others that have emotional patterns similar to what they're familiar with, as well as what seems to create the greatest sense of satisfaction. By the way, you can be one of those people that being miserable is so consistent, and it's so pattern-based of so many different aspects of your life are less than pleased or happy. You're miserable. You'll find that you create the greatest sense of satisfaction being around other people that are miserable. Because somebody who's happy and you're used to being miserable, they aggravate you, they agitate you, they seem to overexcite the misery. That's the distance between emotions that they say, misery loves company. It's true. But so do joyous emotions and things like that. To be on cloud nine, and then you got the Debbie Downer, that's just reminding you of how, the world is horrible, or some specific thing in life is horrible. It's a very uncomfortable place to be, and before you know it, the desire to be around that person gets to the point where it's a desire not to be around that person. And that's a spectrum of, desire to be around somebody, has the high end, I love being around them, and then there's the other side of that pendulum, which it's a spectrum value. It means it comes from being high end, and then it depends on your value systems and things that tell you how fast you get to the other side. If there's no critical moral issue that's occurred that caused you to go from I love being around them to I hate being around them, then it's a process over time that really eats away at them. So that's God, a lot of life is like that. It's not an on-off switch. There's a spectrum value. You get people that you don't mind being around. Then you got other people that you can tolerate being around. It's actually the same coin as the other side. Now, my desire with this channel is just to get people to see life a little bit differently and to spark curiosity, because I love being curious. My son is showing the same thing. 2 years old, he's showing that he's independent and highly curious about everything, which I absolutely love. Where he is to other children isn't as important to me as much as it is seeing his own growth and development. So to say, I've got a very smart kid because other kids aren't smart, I'm not somebody who really likes to think that way. Although I have caught myself doing it. Do I want my son to learn that type of behavior, and what are the cost benefits of that type of behavior? And I'm not a big fan of the outcome whenever you're, too selfish. But again, everything has a spectrum value, right? Selfish and selfless, right? One goes to the concepts of greed, the other one to altruism. But, where do you want to be? A good example or a good piece of homework for this one in particular is, let's say that finances are highly sensitive for you because you're constantly finding yourself running out of days to your paycheck, and you're in a situation where you're sharing a checkbook, or you're in an organization, and let's go with an organization that has to afford to keep you working. You have to be able to make payroll, otherwise you're going to have a deficit, and you can't be under what you bring in the business situation. And what you need is somebody who's going to be very heavy and significant. Somebody's going to be very strict about what's necessary in order to physically, financially improve the company. But you keep bringing in people that are very open in their psychology, and their innovators, and the free thinkers, and the people that are that thinks outside of the box kind of people that are very creative types. And you hire that person in. What you actually need is somebody to be more strict, somebody to be more significant about the money, that you have somebody that's more strict with the purse, if you will. You may not get along with that person psychologically, but you will have the need to, because you need to find balance. So you don't want too many of the same personality types in the same place, because you lack diversity. And diversity goes so much further than what our idiocy that we have right now, which is all about identity. I don't want to use diversity in that way. I think it's divisive. It's a way of keeping people separate so that you can be controlled easier. I like diversity of thinking, because that creates so many different thought exercises and ways of being in somebody else's world that you can sympathetically and empathetically connect outside of the paradigm of your own thinking. I don't want to have a closed mind. So I will find those types of people to keep around me enough that we can continue to explore life through a bigger picture, than to be, comfortable always having conversations with people that agree with me. That's uncomfortable for me. I want growth. So, I do want to have the heavy and significant as well as the carefree, but also be able to, authentically transition between those different places. That is where the beauty of life is. That's where the fulfillment of life is. So, I started off with the idea that there was a guy giving jokes about things, and he's comical. He had a charming way about him, but his joke was about, what he said is, statistically, for everyone who's born, there is 100% statistic that they will die. And it's like, oh, and it's like, it's being more carefree, and that it's just making light of it. Yeah, we're all going to go at some point in time. It's just that the goal is that it's not right now. The goal is that, there are things you want to experience and go through in life. And you need to experience that before that light switch goes off. That's the preference, right? But so many of us are stuck in that paused moment, the purgatory of goals. We're not experiencing the things in life because we've gotten stuck in the minutia of the responsibilities of life, and that's where you can see symptoms of people being too heavy and significant in a bigger picture of things because they have little joy in their life. That's the other side of that joyful thing. You can get to joy through, using heavy significance as an anchoring to a current situation so that you can foundationally improve yourself to the point you're making progress. But it is a really good idea to have the other side of the spectrum planned out, more so than just a vacation. Because if you do heavy and significant 365 days a year, you're going to run into heavy and significant patterns of behavior that don't let you really settle into your vacation. You can't get to the peace. You can't get to the carefree. You have that thing that's constantly there. So at the end of the day, when you die, the person that you meet, if let's say the greatest gift or the greatest torture you could give somebody is introduce them on their last day to the person they could have been. And that, by all the decisions you've made in life, the person that you could have been to the greatest degree of the reward of living a fulfilled life, and then introduce them to the person they could have been had they made nothing but bad decisions their entire life. The worst decisions, and let you find out where you are at that timeline of assessing how you lived your life. It's not just the religious position of, having your sins, counted, or to have you live through the experiences of the life that you've lived with a witness that is there to judge you for eternity based off the way you lived, is to put enough heavy significance into the fact that you should live your life in a way that you find joy and you find love and you find sacrifice and you find hardship, and that you find the full value across the board about how it is to live as a human being. So, hey, you can live whichever way you want, man. Ride that frickin' roller coaster. That's my preference. I used this analogy earlier, and I like it. It's you just grab a hold of life and you ride that thing around the arena, man. You just hang on, and it doesn't hurt the fun to just know where the hay bale is, so you can let go. When to let go, and how to land softly without breaking bones, but yet you can take some bruises. It's like living life in a way that you've got enough control that you're not completely out of control, but you're willing to ride to the point that you can really experience things and stop trying to play God every day, every second, and let it happen around you. So, anyway, plan it, man. Ride it with strategy. This is just life. We've got to figure out. We spend our whole life trying to figure it out, and then we pass on, hoping that our next generation will hear our conversation and to find inspiration and to wisen up enough that, perhaps we move our species forward more than just through technology, but we do it as an evolution of emotion. We do it as an evolution of thinking. We do it as an evolution of just our total existence, versus just thinking, hey, what did we do with our progress in life because we've made, these kind of technological advancements, and we figured out how to teleport or we go space travel with ease, or whatever the thing is that we've created through technology. We can have that same level of advancements inside of ourselves, but we look at it as if it's just kind of almost like what we have inside of us is a curse that we just have to live with. The set maturities that we have are just the maturities that you can't do anything about, so therefore live with it. I don't want to live that way. I prefer the paradigm I have, and that is I can develop in every area. I just have to be aware and then have the right circumstances to give me the opportunity to grow. Emotions are an example of that. You cannot develop emotionally if you don't have emotions to practice on, and you're not active. It's like learning to ride a bike solely by reading a book. It doesn't work. It won't work. So that's it. All right, that's it for today. Again, I am your host, Chad Everett Broshears, or Sir Chad Everett Broshears to some. Look forward to the next conversation. remember, we got a world to change, and you know, it's a fun task to take on. It's wonderful to take on. It's exciting, but we really got to work on ourselves if we want to make any of that work. So we got to start with us. All right, until next time, guys. We'll see you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, share this video with somebody in your life if you feel that this actually would help with a conversation starter or just help in general. I would suggest that you be in the conversation. Don't just send it to somebody and expect them to just watch it, because that's not as likely. But if you do have a conversation around it that might open doors, however you get there, by all means, you know, use me as a resource to at least create the curiosity to go into that subject, whatever it might be, even if it is, you know, making fun of me. I don't care. You know, leave comments in the comment section. Let me hear how the conversations are going. And don't forget, again, subscribe, like the video, and yeah, let's get out there. See ya.